Use ChatGPT to write JavaScript code. JavaScript is an integral part of web development, enabling you to add interactivity and functionality to websites. Whether you are a developer or just starting, you know that writing clean, efficient JavaScript code is important. But what if you could have an AI-powered assistant to help you write code, find solutions, and streamline your development process? That's where ChatGPT comes into play. I will show you the practical steps on how to use ChatGPT effectively for JavaScript coding. So let's get started. Open your internet browser. On the search bar, type chat.openai.com. This is the official website. Example number 1. Generate a random password. Let's start with a common task, generating a random password. You need a secure password for a user account, and you want it to include a mix of letters, numbers, and special characters. With ChatGPT, you can quickly generate JavaScript code to accomplish this. For example, I will say, write JavaScript code to generate a random password that includes letters, numbers, and special characters. The password should be 12 characters long. Here is an example of how you can generate a random password in JavaScript that includes letters, both uppercase and lowercase, numbers and special characters, and is 12 characters long. This is the JavaScript code. This code defines a generate password function that creates a password by randomly selecting characters from the charset string. You can call generate password to get a random password. Adjust the length variable if you want a different length for your password. Example number 2. Calculate Fibonacci numbers. Calculating Fibonacci numbers is a classic programming problem. You can use ChatGPT to generate JavaScript code for calculating Fibonacci numbers using both recursive and iterative approaches. I will say, write JavaScript code to calculate the nth Fibonacci number using a recursive function. Here is a JavaScript code that calculates the nth Fibonacci number using a recursive function. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Example number 3. Validate email addresses. Validating email addresses in JavaScript is important for form input validation. Let's use ChatGPT to generate code for a basic email validation function. I will say, write JavaScript code to validate an email address using a regular expression. Here is a JavaScript code snippet that uses a regular expression to validate an email address. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. 20 ChatGPT prompts to write JavaScript code. Prompt number 1. I will say, write JavaScript code to determine if a given number is even or odd. Here is a simple JavaScript code snippet to determine if a given number is even or odd. This is the JavaScript code. This code defines a function, check even or odd, that takes a number as input and checks if it's even or odd using the modulo operator. If the remainder when divided by 2 is 0, the number is even, otherwise it's odd. You can change the value of num to test different numbers. Prompt number 2. I will say, create a JavaScript function that calculates the sum of all numbers in an array. Here is a JavaScript function that calculates the sum of all numbers in an array. This is the JavaScript code. This function calculates sum, takes an array of numbers as input and iterates through each element, adding it to the sum variable if the element is a number. Finally, it returns the total sum of all numbers in the array. You can change the array variable to test it with different sets of numbers. Prompt 3. I will say, generate JavaScript code to sort an array of integers in ascending order. Here is a JavaScript code snippet that sorts an array of integers in ascending order using the array.prototype.sort method. This is the JavaScript code. The sort ascending function uses a sort method on the array of numbers. Inside sort, a comparison function is provided, which sorts the element in ascending order by subtracting b from a. This sorts numbers from smallest to largest. You can modify the array variable to test it with different sets of integers. Prompt 4. I will say, write JavaScript code to find the factorial of a number using a while loop. Here is a JavaScript code that calculates the factorial of a number using a while loop. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 5. I will say, create a JavaScript program that checks if a string is a palindrome. Here is a JavaScript program that checks if a string is a palindrome. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 6. I will say, generate JavaScript code to calculate the area of a rectangle given its width and height. Here is a JavaScript code snippet to calculate the area of a rectangle when given its width and height. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 7. I will say, write JavaScript code to remove duplicates from an array of strings. Here is a JavaScript code snippet to remove duplicates from an array of strings. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. This code uses a set to remove duplicates. When creating a set from an array, it automatically removes duplicate elements. The spread operator ... is then used to convert the unique set back into an array. Adjust the values in the array variable to test it with different sets of strings containing duplicates. Prompt 8. I will say, create a JavaScript function that finds the largest prime factor of a given number. Here is a JavaScript function that finds the largest prime factor of a given number. This is a JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 9. I will say, generate JavaScript code to implement a basic countdown timer. Here's a basic countdown timer implemented in JavaScript. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. This countdown timer function takes the number of seconds as input and starts a countdown. It uses setInterval to decrement the seconds variables every second. Once the countdown reaches 0, it clears the intervals and logs timer finished. You can adjust the value of seconds to set the duration of the countdown timer. Prompt 10. I will say, write JavaScript code to convert a temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Here is a JavaScript function that converts a temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 11. I will say, create a JavaScript program that generates a random password with a specified length and complexity. Here's a JavaScript program that generates a random password with a specified length and complexity. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 12. I will say, generate JavaScript code to reverse the order of words in a string. Here's a JavaScript function that reverses the order of words in a string. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 13. I will say, write JavaScript code to validate an email address using a regular expression. Here's a JavaScript function that uses a regular expression to validate an email address. This is a JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 14. I will say, create a JavaScript function that calculates the area of a circle given its radius. Here is a JavaScript function that calculates the area of a circle given its radius. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 15. I will say, generate JavaScript code to find the intersection of two arrays. Here is a JavaScript function that finds the interaction of two arrays. This is a JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 16. I will say, write JavaScript code to convert a binary number to a decimal number. Here is a JavaScript function that converts a binary number to a decimal number. This is a JavaScript code. Here is the explanation for the code. Prompt 17. I will say, create a JavaScript program that simulates a simple quiz with multiple choice questions and scores. Here's a JavaScript program that simulates a simple quiz with multiple choice questions and calculates scores. This is the JavaScript code. This program defines a quiz questions array containing multiple choice questions, each represented as an object with a question, options, and correct answer. The takeQuiz function iterates through the questions, displays them along with options, prompts the users for answers, and calculates the score based on the user's input. You can modify the quiz questions array to add or modify quiz questions. Prompt 18. I will say, generate JavaScript code to implement a basic calculator that supports addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Here is a JavaScript implementation of a basic calculator supporting addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. This is a JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 19. I will say, write JavaScript code to find the greatest common divisor of two numbers using the Euclidean algorithm. Here is a JavaScript code that implements the Euclidean algorithm to find the greatest common divisor of two numbers. This is the JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. Prompt 20. I will say, create a JavaScript function that checks if a year is a leap year or not. Here's a JavaScript function to check if a year is a leap year or not. This is a JavaScript code. This is the explanation for the code. This function is leap year, checks whether a given year is a leap year or not based on the rules. Leap years are divisible by 4 except for years divisible by 100 unless they are also divisible by 400. Modify the year to check variable to test different years. I am done showing you 20 ChatGPT prompts to write JavaScript code. I hope this video will be helpful for you. Thank you for watching this video.